All right. Go ahead and call the meeting, the Finance Committee meeting to order. It's July 10th, 2023. Here's my friend, Mr. Vest, in the audience, which reminds me we got, oh man. Reminds me we got about 3 weeks left of summer break and the kids are back in school. So tonight we have a couple items on our agenda. And the administration, Ms. Corey Korn, has put together a presentation for us. So I thought we'd watch that presentation and see if we have any answers or any questions that she may answer. Because of the holiday, we got a lot of meetings crunched in here tonight, so we're on a little bit of a limited time. We need to wrap up at about 5 or 6 minutes till 6. So I'm just going to go ahead and hand it over to Ms. Korn. So. And you let us know when you need us to advance, and I'll advance your PowerPoint here.
Thank you so much. Tyler is on his way down. And whoops, here he is. So he is also joining me. He'll be able to answer some of the questions. So what we have in front of you is the information to support the appropriations that we are recommending from ARP. So if you could please advance the screen, the slide. You'll see that we are asking for that $3,026,779 are appropriated in ARP funds. As you recall, we were awarded $11,209,000. In 2022, we did spend $5,538,000, leaving a balance of $5,671,000. So when you look at the $3 million that we are looking, you can see that there's plenty left in our balance that we want to spend. And we are looking, and we'll go through slide by slide, but as an overview, just to break that down, $1 million in CCMG matching grant, $280,000 to meet the rest of our obligation for our trail development on Lee Road, and then on 63rd Street in Winona. Public safety, you'll see it's $1,700,460, and we're looking for $1,600,000 in vehicle replacement, $10,000 in fire department and education training, another $41,000 in repairs to our tower, a fire tower, then some body cams and flock cams, and also $15,000 for the police and promotion process. So the first thing, if you go to the CCMG, is you'll see that there is a map there for you. And Tyler, you can speak a little bit more to this, I'm sure. But in our motor, the one question that we get asked is, why do you need $1 million to match the CCMG? And that really is very important to us because we want to be able to do additional work. So the map you're looking at, the green indicates the work that is going to be done with our CCMG grant that was awarded. You'll see the majority of that is big portion of that project is from Franklin Road from Pendleton Pike to 56th Street, and there are other streets in there. So really that impacts districts 1, 2, and 3, the work we'll be doing there. And that match is needed as a requirement for the grant. So the first question that seems to come to mind often is, don't you have that in your budget? Well, if we spend those match dollars out of the MVH fund, Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, we will have nothing else to do. And all that yellow you see on the map that goes across the entire city, those are strip patching and repair needs that need to be done. And so none of that work can happen if we don't allocate from ARP. We will impact all those other areas in the city. So it's really important, this match, as a requirement of the grant and as a way that we can expand the work that we're doing to make sure that we're keeping on top of our roads and that we're extending the life and longevity of the roads that we have by doing those repairs. Because as you can imagine, if we don't do all that work in yellow, those roads will erode more and more because we won't be able to patch them and fix them. Any questions before we go on to the next?
You allowed to ask questions? Are we allowed?
Would you prefer questions as we go along or at the end?
However you prefer it.
Through time, I thought maybe you could do the whole presentation, we come back to questions.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Then if you advance to the next slide, please. Is there anything you want to add, Tyler, to that last piece?
Well, I want to clarify something.
Okay.
Can you go back to the first page?
Yep, I'm sorry,
How
back
do I
up.
go back?
Just the arrow the other way.
This one
The
or
one you
the?
wanted?
Yeah, sorry, it's in her notes, it's not on there. Now, going back to what we spent in '22, just to have the totals for you, ARP, we spent 2.5 million. Just to clarify, you said 5.5. So with that left 8.6 at the end of 2022, just to clarify. Now, there were still some of the SWIFT grant funds that were encumbered to be spent, and then part of the trail, I believe. But I just want to clarify that, just because
What was that again?
for 2022, we spent hold on, let me pull it up again, sorry,
You said 2.5. and-
2.5, leaving us with 8.6.
But what
versus-
was the 2022 allocation or appropriation? Wasn't it like 5 something?
So I believe, yeah, that's what she was referencing, was a whole allocation, but we didn't, without it being spent,
So you didn't spend $3 million of art funds in 2022?
correct?
Okay.
But
So we allocated fund.
clarification, he sound like you said there's still some things coming in.
It was, correct, so we had already encumbered some of the funds. So I need to go back and pull the number, but out of the 5.5, do you have the other one? Let me see this real quick.
Is there any way we can get an itemized?
Yeah, I'll just
I
email
think
you that.
we need to have it itemized so we can see it.
I think what you're saying, Tyler, and I know you need to go through the numbers, but is it safe to say that there's a portion, controller, is it safe to say that there's a portion of the 2022 funds that were allocated for ARP that were unencumbered
And unspent, correct.
and unspent?
Yep, I'll get you the total on that.
Okay, thank you.
So really the point I wanted to make was that she had already included the total 5.5 allocation
Yeah, yeah.
last year, and we hadn't spent
Yeah.
it all. So I'll get you the true total on that one.
Okay.
Is there it seems like when we were allocating that before, there was a federal spending report that had to be done.
Yeah, we have to do a quarterly, it's SLRF, we do a quarterly report to the federal government, yeah.
Is it possible to get the latest quarterly report as well?
Next one will be due, last one was due in April.
So if we can get the April.
So quick question on that, since we're hitting on it, because I think it's important just in the context of this conversation. So whatever is communicated as the unspent allocated funds from ARP last year, are there plans to spend that? And then if so, what are they?
This ARP plan basically corrects that and puts those into, let's look at 24, puts it into 24.
Say that again?
It corrects the fact that they were unused, puts into 24, which is like not allocated. 24 doesn't have a specific total, so 24 still leaves 2.6 that needs to be allocated.
Okay, so 2.6 million wasn't spent from 2022.
And there was already some money in 24 already. We've got a couple different versions of this.
That's the most recent one.
You just
Yeah,
gave
are
us
we
a
looking at
total
your
of
most recent plan?
$3.6 million.
If I remember right, we could allocate it per year, but you had until 27 to spend it, but it still rolled in some way on those projects. You could allocate it to a specific project in a specific year.
Yeah, you just
You
need
had
to,
till
you would need to
27
appropriate it.
finish
You'd have
that
to,
project.
you'd have to do another appropriation if you're going
Correct.
to use it in a different way.
And then
In a different way.
what they haven't been really clear about too is let's say you don't spend it in 20, let's say you allocate it in 22 in the plan and appropriate it, and then it's not spent. What's clear is you need to reappropriate it. But then if you spend it in 23, it's kind of like, okay, or 24, just because it was in the 22 plan, they haven't really been clear about, they want it in the plan, but then it's like, how much does that have to really perfectly align with the timing? So some of those things that didn't get done in 22, we would need to make sure that they're clearly outlined in 24 when they're spent. So that's why 24 is left really open-ended, so it can be
Okay,
amended. Yeah,
Can I ask a question?
pretty much every year you have to keep amending this.
I think
Yeah,
now I'm
please.
confused. I think, just
Yeah.
right to me, just, so, looking at page one, like what we have here, we had money in 2022 that was not spent. Help me not to assume, but Lisa asked, that if the money that we didn't spend isn't already tied to another project right now. Is that correct, Lisa? Was I understanding your question?
That's what Tyler said,
And you
yeah.
said no, is that correct?
Sorry.
I'm just trying to follow the conversation. I feel like it's, I just,
That's what Tyler said, the controller said, yes. The unused funds in 2022 are not, there's no plans to use them right.
okay, well, that's good to know. Okay, thank you.
We didn't touch 22's plan, right?
Yes, because he
And
told
then we
us
asked, yeah.
it was 8.671.
That's still left in ARPA.
That's still left in,
Could be left in our, and we got 11 something.
That was
Seems like originally.
initially given, so we're kind of, yeah, but he's gonna get us the final number.
Yeah, he's going to prepare, yeah, give us the reports that.
report that
yeah.
itemized.
That may, but basically, we're just looking at,
We used some
there should be a little bit more than what we,
Well, the whole point is, why didn't we spend the money if we had the needs? That's what I'm getting at.
okay, that's
Like,
fair.
because there's all this stuff, right, on this page, and we had $2.5 million. So,
And I think we allocated, was $1 million to sewer, $1 million to, a couple million to sewer, $1 million to streets at that time.
appropriations roll.
Yeah.
Nice way to look at it.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I think what might be most helpful is that full accounting from the controller once you have a chance to go back, right? I mean, we need to, because I don't think anywhere in your plan, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, because I haven't looked at it in a little while, but I don't think it says this is leftover money that was unspent from art funds in 2022 anywhere in the documents we have. So I think first we need to understand what's left over and then how you're proposing to appropriate the funds in 23 and 24. Does that make sense? That would be helpful. Thank you.
So with this, so you can see, if we go back to then the streets piece of it, we
this
will
one?
get you that information.
I know the streets
One right
piece.
before that, that we know
This
we
one?
have the needs for, and it's very clear how we need to, so that we can use our MVH funds to get the other did done in yellow.
didn't we already approve a resolution on, we already supported the, right? Didn't we?
I don't remember.
I thought we
Yeah.
did.
CMG, and this is new CCMG. Every year, we get issued.
Yeah, I'm aware of the process. Yeah, I mean,
So this isn't one you have applied for, this is one you want to apply for later this year?
This is
No,
one
this
kind
is
of
one we have, and like I said, we will go forward with the projects in green either way. Ideally, we would like to use ARP.
Yeah.
We have to pay for the match, so we have the freedom to use the MVH funds to complete all that strip patching in yellow.
yeah. And so I
If we
think,
don't get it, then.
I think you already have it, right?
No,
So, wait, let me finish. You have unused funds in 2022,
we have the.
and you're going to give us the exact amount,
Oh, okay.
okay?
Of ARP.
So you already have them, the fund, right? Meaning, we've already approved monies that were unspent to the tune of left to be determined in 2022. So those funds can be reappropriated. So once the controller gets us that number, let's say it's 2 million. Don't know what it is. Let's say it's 2 million. Well, million for the CCMG. This council has always supported matching funds for road work. I can't speak for everybody, but for myself personally, if you have unused funds in excess of $1 million, I'm going to support that. The trail improvement, I'm not saying what these other things, the priorities or what, but I'm saying that unused amount can cover, right? $2 million worth of stuff on this page based on what's a priority for the administration, and then coming back to the council for appropriation, because we've already given you the money.
Okay.
In 2020,
Right.
in 2022.
So I think what we need is what was unspent in 2022, and then a priority list to match those funds that were unspent in 2022 that you would like for us to approve. And then what's out of scope for that needs to be separated out, and then we can talk about those things.
And obviously, just to add, if it's all right,
Please.
obviously you want to be compliant, Tyler, with what the feds indicate, and I think you indicated it wasn't crystal clear, which is not the first time something's not been crystal clear here, right?
Change frequently.
It seems to change, and you're probably keeping more up to date than I am, but also keep in mind, we've got to be compliant with state law, and the expectation is, if you're changing what you're spending the money for,
Yep.
you need another appropriation for that.
Yep.
So just make sure we're all on the same page.
Just to that end too, I'll get you the leftover from 22. The 23, basically really what we're focusing on with this art plan is just the 23 piece, and we would still, inevitably, we're still going to be asking for the same appropriation amount, which is the 23 ARP allocation. Because when we did the 23 proposal, we didn't appropriate ARP funds at all. And that's, so we're still going to need to do it.
Yeah, absolutely,
at the end of the day.
absolutely. But
Yeah, so
we have an amount unspent that we need, as a council, we need to understand when we're looking at this in its totality, but it's, how it's matching up.
That's why I asked for itemized.
Yeah.
Yep, so with that, but that, like, to your point, that will not change the 3,026,000. So,
Well, it won't change the total.
We'll change the
Okay,
total.
it will change,
Because it's not encumbered, so it still needs to be now appropriated for this year.
I think, well, of course.
Yeah.
But I think what we're saying is, we thought the 5 million was in the rear view. It was already spent, it was already done. We had no idea that there was an unused amount from 2022. So for us, that's new information, and that helps us
Right.
with this total picture. That's all.
Thank you. That makes sense. It makes sense with the balance piece of it. Okay, then the next piece, we talked, if you can move forward, we talked a little bit about the trail. Any questions on the trail before we go forward? And then we'll go right into our public safety vehicle replacement on the next one. You'll see that there's $1.6 million that we are looking for in public safety vehicle replacement. Instead of taking new leases for the vehicles mentioned there, 10 LPD vehicles at $40,000 each, so that's $400,000 total, a fire engine of $700,000, an ambulance of $350,000, and then the SWAT Bearcat, which would be $150,000 in matching funds. Currently, as you know, our replacement for vehicles is done on a lease basis, and our goal is to not lease these vehicles, but to purchase them outright this year so that we can eliminate some debt as debt drops off and not add any new debt to that. In doing some analysis, Tyler shared that it will have some savings to the operational funds of fire of $218,000 a year by allowing that debt to fall off and not replacing it for their vehicles. And then for police in turn, it'll be a savings about $169,000 a year if we do not issue any new debt and we use these ARP funds to outright purchase these. The question is always, would we not get vehicles this year? No, we would still have to get vehicles in order to keep our fleet current and not get behind. But what it would allow us to do is not incur any more debt and take some of the stress off of our public safety tax fund.
I think for the next meeting, what I would like, as we're preparing for like what we need for the next meeting is, we went through a huge effort to go from purchase vehicles to lease vehicles when I first got in the council about 7, 8 years ago. And there was cost savings tied to, and a very big push around cost savings leasing vehicles. So I would really like to see that, sort of lined out for us, why that whole philosophy has changed back to what we completely undid 7 years ago.
And I believe that you'll see that it's a strategy that we will continue with, and we'll have those numbers to support that. So it's not that leases will go away from us, but every once in a while, and especially because the cost of vehicles so quickly went up, and the cost of just goods in general went up, and everything across the board went up, that it's causing some stress in our public safety tax fund, so we're looking to get some relief and get some things in line.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Or
We've got
maybe
about
it's a
3
question or a suggestion. Is there any way we can look at the vehicles at this particular time if we were to purchase a minimum of what we need to get through this year, and then look at what we can put in the budget in 2024? If you want to purchase, I think we should see both leasing versus purchasing. And what's the minimum? I mean, we're already into July. What is the minimum we can do to get by in 2024, 3 here, please?
Well, hopefully, I don't mind, but hopefully if we have more money in an ideal world coming in, we have more money to work with, so that's a positive too. I mean, if I'm still understanding the situation, that might be a positive. I mean, I know for me personally, I'd rather own my van as opposed to make payments. So we could use that as a consideration as the finance committee, as if we're coming in with more money, that might just be something to consider.
Find out, right. And we're close to it starting on the 24 budget, so these conversations all match together. So we got just a few minutes left, if you'd like
And
to
then next,
continue.
you'll see that we have our facility repairs that need to be taken care of for the fire tower. That, just as it gets a lot of use with training and things, you can see that over time, it's taken its toll. And so there's $42,000 that we are asking for there. On the next slide, there's some public safety fire education training. That is continuing education for firefighters and EMS. The next slide talks through some public safety cameras. It's 8 new cameras, body-worn cameras, 4 for our merit officers and 4 for our reserve officers. And also, we continue all those, when we purchase those body cams, there's also a subscription that goes with those each year for use. And we know those are important. And then we have our flock cameras. And so that is a subscription basis. And you will see that, I know there was a question at the last meeting about some cameras that were on the claims, but Tyler, I know you shared a little bit with me about that purchase. I believe it was the flock cameras you questioned last time, Lisa, at the last council meeting with claims?
I don't recall
I
it.
had pointed that out, that it was just on the claims. I think she had a question about the lease payments at the previous, yeah.
Okay, and so, but again, we continue to have those subscriptions that we need for the different cameras. And then lastly, you'll see that we have things about our police new hire promotion process. By merit law, we have to keep an active list every 2 years of all our officers, and that those funds are needed to cover the cost of testing and promotion of our officers. And then LFD has also, they've changed their hiring process, and so there's, with the needs that they have, there's an increase in the numbers they need for physical and psychological testing, so taking that into account. And so that's pretty much it, everything in that packet. Just to recap, what you would like to see as follow-up is you would like to see the what was not spent in 2022, the copy of the report that is submitted to the federal government for ARP spending, and then you would like then a separate scope outside of how we would prioritize that money that was left spent, and then the rest of how we'd like to be spent. And then also you'd like to see a comparison of leases versus outright purchasing, and why the change in philosophy for this 1 year. Is there anything else that you would like to see included in our next presentation? Or actually, we can actually email you a follow-up, and so that you have time to look at it prior to the next meeting.
Be great.
Yeah, that would work. And then if we have any follow-up, we'll combine it with that.
All right.
All right, well, thank you. No, I thank you, Ms. Corn. I appreciate you going through this with us, and I'll coordinate with our council president and the clerk for time on our next meeting.
Okay, and then just so that we know, because we know there are 10 days that before we do have that we have to publicize for a public hearing. Once you get the information and look at it, if you could please let us know. We want to make sure that we advertise in a timely manner so that we can keep the process rolling and take care of these expenditures in this fiscal year.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.